The Flores settlement was, I believe, 1997. So at least as far back as 1997, we've had children apprehended at our southern border, taken into custody, and ultimately released into the country. In 2011, we saw the beginning, I believe, of the modern unaccompanied children migration into this country. Spiked again in 2014. In fact, I remember having a conversation with President Obama at the Summit of the Americas in Panama in April of 2015. I've got a great picture of it. He and I talking about this issue. And I surprised him because I told him I probably agreed with their administration more than some of my Republican colleagues about increased money going to the Northern Triangle countries to take care of the problem there. I remember that conversation vividly. But to listen to the other side, you would think that the problem of unaccompanied children come to our border and the separation of children from the adults that they are with only happened with the election of Donald J. Trump. No, it's been going on. The past administration, this administration, and as far back as 1997. What concerns me, what I said in the February hearing, and I'll say again today, is that every adult accompanying a child at the border isn't their parent. Human trafficking is real in this world, and it is happening along our southern border, not only with women sold into sex slavery, other types of human trafficking, but also child trafficking, and possibly child sex trafficking that's unfathomable. So when a child shows up at a CBP facility or apprehended by officers out in the desert, and that child is accompanied by an adult, I think it's very important that our nation tries to determine who that adult is and what situation that child might be in. Now, there are a lot of situations where family units come and the children are with their parents. But you don't know that by looking at them after they've come across the desert with dirt and sweat, stained faces. It's important for the health and well-being of that child for us to separate that child from that adult and figure out whether that's their parent or whether that's a coyote bringing them across the border or a trafficker hoping to sell that child into some form of slavery. So I appreciate this nation taking the well-being of that child into consideration and determining who that adult is with that child. Because I can only imagine some of the horrors that that child has probably seen on his journey north. And I don't like to think about the horrors that that child may have endured on their journey north. And I definitely don't want to think about the children that we don't apprehend, that make it into this country with those coyotes, those human traffickers, those sex traffickers, and end up in abominable situations. Now, we can play politics and we can blame this administration or that administration for separating children at the border and trying to determine who the adults are. We can play the blame game and we can play politics and all that. But I want to applaud the men and women sitting at this table for trying to have the best interests of those children at heart. Now, the question I have for Mr. Hayes, how do we get DNA testing in this so that we can more rapidly determine the familiar relationship between that child and that adult they're with, or the lack thereof, so that we can prosecute that human trafficker? But if they are related, how can we more rapidly reunite those families?
So, Congressman, thank you for that question. ORR does not used DNA testing in mass. We did use it, and I would defer to my colleague Commander White in some of the reunification efforts that were, under the court order deadline last summer. It was very different from the normal ORR policies and procedures. I also think my colleagues at CBP could probably address some of what they do on the spot. I know I've had reports that's happening, and there's increasing in that.
I'm out of time, and maybe the chairwoman will let them answer, but I will say this. I think the goal, all of us, is to make sure that those families are reunited as soon as possible. Madam Chair, I'll yield back.